Ari Aster is one of the most prominent film directors working today, making two of the most acclaimed horror films of recent times and being nominated for countless awards. Today I'm going to be talking about how Ari Aster shoots a scene in both Midsommar and Hereditary, as well as talking about his pre-production process and what equipment he and his cinematographer, Paweł Pogorzelski, used to create the unique look for each film. After graduating from the College of Santa Fe, Aster was accepted to the AFI Conservatory, where he gained a Masters in Fine Arts, focusing in directing. His first major short film, The Strange Thing About the Johnsons, was also his thesis film for the school, and it later premiered at the Slam Dance Film Festival, but went viral after it leaked a couple of months earlier. He then wrote and directed 5 more short films over the years from 2011 until 2018, with both Alejandro de Leon and Paweł Pogorzelski, his producer and cinematographer, both who also studied at the AFI with him. Then in 2018 he made his debut feature Hereditary. Aster caught the eye of A24 after his short films The Strange Thing About the Johnsons and Munchausen. He then pitched the idea of Hereditary, not as a horror but as a family tragedy. The film itself is partially based off a true story after an incident in 2004 where 2 friends were driving home and one was killed the same way that Charlie is in the film. The next year, Aster wrote and directed Midsommar after being approached by Swedish production company Be Real Films to make a slasher film set in Sweden. Initially, he rejected the idea, but after constructing a plot with 2 central characters and relationship tensions, he wrote a screenplay surrounding the theme, describing it as a breakup movie dressed in the clothes of a folk horror film. They shot the film in Budapest, even though it is almost entirely set in Sweden, but filming laws there would have restricted the making of the film. Originally, it had a cut of 171 minutes, and Aster was asked to trim the film for the theatrical release. However, in mid-2020, A24 released the director's cut on their website in limited quantities. He's currently in production for his 3rd feature, Disappointment Boulevard, which stars Joaquin Phoenix, but is yet to receive a release date. But once it is released, I'll make a video on the cinematography behind that. Aster has many influences when it comes to both his visual style and how he tells a story. He has many favourite films that have influenced him, but most notably we have Rosemary's Baby, Fanny and Alexander, Persona, The Thing and The Age of Innocence, along with many more. You can see aspects from all of these films in his own work, whether it's the grading or simply the composition. Whilst Hereditary is Aster's first feature film, he had already developed a unique style when it came to his filmmaking, and you can tell from the first scene of the film. When it comes to the working with his cinematographer, Paweł Pogorzelski, Aster is more in charge of the movement and composition, whereas Pogorzelski is more in charge of the lighting and visual look of the film. Early on in the pre-production process, they both get together and discuss the visual language that they want to achieve with the film. They would spend weeks going through the scenes and carefully creating a shot list and then redoing it until it's perfect. For example, the original shot list for Hereditary was around 130 pages, and that was before Aster even went to his production designer and cinematographer. Then he took them through the entire shot list so they're all on the same page about the film. On Hereditary, Aster wanted to go bold with the negative space and wanted to push how far you can actually go without losing the image to darkness. As Pogorzelski is in charge of lighting, Aster usually leaves him alone, but will still give him references and ask for a certain look in a scene. One of the main lighting references for the film was 1994's 3 Colors Red, directed by Krzysztof Kieślowski. The main reference being the palette of the house, as both films are particularly brown when it comes to the production design. When it comes to movement, Polanski was an inspiration, and as for blocking, Aster looked to Fellini's 8½, and Juliet of the Spirits. On Midsommar, he has a similar approach as he takes a lot of inspiration from other films surrounding that genre, but also ones that he just likes the look of. For example, he took inspiration for The Grade from Black Narcissus and Tales of Hoffman, and production design influences from The Colour of Pomegranate and Shadows of Forgotten Ancestors. It's clear that Midsommar is a bright film, but they actually shot the majority of it just using natural light, but if they did need any artificial lighting, then they had an 18K on standby. But this isn't to say that he didn't have any grip equipment. In fact, he had an array of 20x20s, ranging from muslins to using them for negative fill, which is often a fabric-like duvetine, but I'm unsure of what he actually used. The use of central framing is prominent throughout Midsommar, whether it's a one-shot, just showing the character's face, or if the only action in the scene takes place in the centre. This type of framing can be used for a multitude of reasons, from creating immersion in the environment, humour purposes, but more prominently it is used to show power in a character. This is shown in the final shot of the film, where we have Danny in the flower dress in the centre of the frame, smiling at the sight of her ex-boyfriend being burnt alive. Both Hereditary and Midsommar were shot on digital, with Hereditary being on the Ari Alexa Mini paired with Panavision's Primos, and Midsommar being on the Panavision Millennium DXL2 paired with Primo 70s and Primo Artistes. Artistes have a vintage quality to them, create a painterly look, and are a little softer than the 70s. Primo 70s on the other hand are known for being consistent and with very minimal ghosting and distortion. This makes them perfect for very wide shots and use when shooting in 8K. And as the DXL2 is an 8K camera, he opted to use them here. When it came to the grading of these films, Aster and Pogorzelski worked closely and talked about the final grade from the start of production. For example, on Midsommar, they talked about the progression into vibrant colours. They wanted the film to feel like a 3-strip Technicolor process, much like in Black Narcissus and Tales of Hoffman. Aster said in an interview, "The idea wasn't how do we achieve that 3-strip Technicolor look, but how do we achieve the way that it looks in our mind when we're not watching it." As they aren't a fan of doing things in post, they had DITs on set as well as lookup tables, otherwise known as LUTs, built for them, so that when they were on set, they weren't looking at the raw footage. Aster has shot both of his features in the 2:1 aspect ratio, which was designed to be used as a compromise between the 2.39:1 and the standard 16:9, but it's now becoming very common amongst TV shows and other narrative films. Overall, Aster likes to have a say when it comes to how his film is shot, but allows for a lot of leeway for the lighting and the overall visual look. I hope you enjoyed this video on how Ari Aster shoots a scene. If you have a recommendation for a film that you'd like to see me break down, leave a comment down below. If you found this video helpful, a thumbs up is appreciated, and if you'd like to see more videos like this, then hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.